Welcome to Cordkillers Reckoning. The world of entertainment is turned upside down, and we're just trying to find out how to watch what we want, where we want, whenever we want. Me, I'm Tom Merritt. Who are you?
Me? Sir, am I being detained? Am I being detained? Am I free
Are
to
you
go?
a cop? You have to tell me.
No, I'm Brian Brushwood.
Yes, the one, the old, well, there might be another person named, are there other people named Brian Brushwood? There's a lot of people named Tom Merritt.
One other Brian Brushwood on the planet, and he lives in Perth, Australia.
Really?
And his, the only social media that I saw was he was on Google Plus, and it said Brian Brushwood, and when you opened it, it said not that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a computer programmer who I hope to meet someday.
Yeah. Should we do Cordkillers from Perth?
Yeah, if you insist, sir, twist my arm. I'm
and
here
invite
for
him on the show, and
Yeah,
I'll see if I can
yeah.
get the Tom Merritt martial arts master to join us. We can fly him in.
Oh, is there a Tom? Of course, there's a Tom Merritt martial arts master.
Yeah. The only other, there's a bunch of other Tom Merritts. There's actually a Tom Merritt in Oxford who I've met. Very nice guy. You know, as Tom Merritts go. So maybe we get him too. He'd probably a better chance of getting him, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you ready for the supply run?
I am.
Very special supply.
I am now.
Supply run, supply run, supply run.
What?
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of Brand Wars, Brian Brushwood, Warner Brothers Discovery has announced that this summer it will change the name of its streaming service Max to HBO Max.
I believe I was on Team Max. I always wanted it to be Max, more Max than HBO Max.
When they first changed it, though, you said, I don't know why they're doing this. HBO is the stronger brand. This is weird. And then you quickly are like, but Max is strong, and you like made your peace with it.
Yeah, well,
but you have been on record saying HBO is the stronger brand forever.
Which is why it should not be diluted with the filthy Maxness. And Max can be elevated with HBO on the inside, but HBO should not be diluted with filthy Maxness.
So wait, so have I gotten this entirely wrong? Are you against changing the name back to HBO Max?
I liked it being Max. I thought Max it's great. It's one syllable, and the A was reminiscent of the HBO.
They had recently changed the A to look like the O in HBO.
Yeah, correct. But you know, sometimes so the hard thing.
What about the old argument that it's HBO to the max? Like it's just the maximum HBO. You can get HBO on TV, or you can get HBO Max. Well, forget all those plus people. We're maximum.
The hard thing to do is to build a brand up from scratch. It's also the right thing to do. And the canonical example is people were asked before Lexus existed, they said, which would you rather have? Something called a Lexus or a Toyota Supreme? Everybody said, well, I know what a Toyota is, and a Toyota Supreme must be a better Toyota. So they all said Toyota Supreme. Luckily, somebody was like, that's dumb. Let's launch a new brand called Lexus. And now Lexus means a fine quality automobile. And then they did the same thing for a youth-centric brand with the Scion. So likewise, HBO Max... Yeah, we've already done our laps on it. But
although
but
Toyota in that analogy is the mainstream brand and Lexus is the premium, whereas HBO is the premium brand.
Correct. Which is why but it's also the known. It's also altering the known brand. So in this case, I would have stuck with Max, but a bunch of people who are, shall I say, lazier are just like, why not make everything gold? Or it's like, it's the equivalent of putting lightsabers on everything. Yes, lightsabers are your favorite part of Star Wars. You know what sucks? All lightsabers. Just nothing but lightsabers.
Lightsabers all the time.
Exactly.
What if in a year or two they drop Max?
I mean, look, I've given up giving them sage wisdom. They're going to do whatever some idiot is just going to keep on pressing the HBO button, and everyone could stand around saying, "Where's Poochie?" Look, I understand. Some bean counter figured it would goose their numbers to sprinkle HBO sauce on there, not realizing that the more you press the HBO button, the less well it works. That's what I almost cursed. That's what a brand is.
I think it's funny that everybody is telling me about this story as if it has already happened. I've even been corrected by people when I've referred to Max, which at this point is still called Max. You're like, you mean HBO Max? Because they changed it back. I'm like, they haven't, okay, pedantic Tom. They haven't actually changed it back, but people are so excited that it's changed back that everybody's jumped on the bandwagon. Like it's become a viral meme to be like, it's HBO Max again. It should have always stayed HBO Max.
Yeah, it's also a bit of an adroit pivot on the part of the social media team over at HBO Max, because they're the ones playing into it. They're the ones feeding the memes. They took the Spider-Man meme of the Spider-Man pointing to each other. They changed him to Superman because Superman is property that they're allowed to do that with. And then, in fact, all of that just kind of annoys me as a consumer, because it's like the one thing you don't want is for corporate suits to be in on the memes.
Yeah. Well, folks, just to be comprehensive in our coverage here, it was HBO, HBO 2, HBO Signature, HBO Go, HBO Now, HBO Max, Max, and now HBO Max again.
Yep.
I missed a couple of the cable variations in there.
Yeah. Also, there's a number. There's a number of. It was never that. Like. There's a bunch of content that was never HBO content in the Max era.
What are they going to do with that? Hacks is an example. Hacks is a Max original, not an HBO show. Does it stay as a Max original under HBO Max? I guess.
To be honest, I think that Hacks is exactly what broke the distinction. So they the problem is they wanted something more than HBO, but they wanted to be able to sprinkle HBO stuff. But HBO, of course, means high quality programming. So they did HBO Max, which meant HBO plus a bunch of garbage. And Max could in general be the garbage thing. And so Hacks comes along, and it's not quite good enough to be an HBO original. So instead, they make it very clear, no, this is a Max original, Max original. Then it turns out to be freaking awesome, excellent television. And then all of a sudden, they're all like, did we say Max? We meant HBO Max.
Well, I take issue with that because I don't think they used Max as this is less than HBO. They were using it very clearly to me to mean you can only get this here. There's HBO stuff which you could get on cable TV. This stuff like Hacks is only here. They were trying to say these are shows that are too experimental to even show on cable television, although that wasn't actually true. That seemed to be, to me, what the message was trying to be.
Well, but yes, but also to me, the Max was all of the syndicated garbage that they were just shoveling.
But they didn't put Max original in front of syndicated garbage. They only put it in front of original stuff that they were. That's correct.
But that's what the Max means. Max means this is the Max. The HBO is the HBO stuff. Everything not HBO is the Max.
I never looked at it that way, but maybe that's just me. So, all right. One last question for you. CNN launched CNN Plus, then Warner Brothers Discovery merged, new executives came in, they killed CNN Plus. CNN Plus was never CNN. It was more like Fox Nation, where they were doing additional programming from the CNN teams that people were supposed to want to pay for. However, they have announced they will launch a paid streaming version of CNN that will have live channels, it'll have news feeds, it'll have exclusive programming, but it will not just be additional content. It will include CNN's main content more than CNN Plus did, and it will include everything on the website, which they already have a paywall for. So the paywall for the CNN.com will be included in this. What do you think they're calling that service?
Oh, geez. I would imagine hooray for CNN. Definitely CNN in here.
It's called CNN.
Oh, okay. Good. I like it. I'm for it.
Is this them following your playbook then?
Well,
on this one anyway?
Yeah, because as long as I can definitely get the news,
right?
Then beyond that,
you will get the live CNN channels, which you would not have gotten in CNN Plus.
Right. So think of it this way: CNN means the news is here, and so the only way to screw up CNN is if you go there and the news is not there, which is what they were doing with their CNN Plus stuff.
Yeah.
It's like how on earth can you have a CNN and you go there and there's no news there? Now, the reverse is HBO is quite literally defined by not what's in there, but what it isn't. It's not TV, it's HBO. So what do? Like a bunch of dummies? They're like, what we should do is add TV to it, and then we'll call it HBO Max. It's quite literally, you spent 30 years building the brand. It's not TV, it's HBO. Why would you want TV in your thing that is defined by not having TV in it? But that's fine.
I wonder, okay, hear me out. I think what they're doing with CNN is smart. There is still CNN content in HBO Max, the yet to be renamed HBO Max. But if you just want CNN, you're a news junkie, you're like, I don't need all the drama programs and sports. I just want the news. You can subscribe to CNN. To me, that is similar to what ESPN is going to do later this year. They are going to launch ESPN. It will give you access to the ESPN website. It'll just be the sports, but it will be all the sports. And if you want, you can bundle it with Disney Plus, and Disney Plus will have some ESPN content in it. But if you want all of it, you need to get ESPN. It feels like they're doing that with CNN for Max, which is there's some CNN content in Max, but if you want all of it, get CNN, subscribe to that. Don't need a cable subscription now. You can get it a la carte. Should they do that with HBO? Should you be able to just get HBO outside of Max or bundle them, CNN, HBO, and Max together?
I mean, certainly that's what I would do. And maybe this is all part of a master strategy play where eventually they're going to have a package. What if you could have all your favorite streaming services in just one convenient bill? We'll call it cable. It'll be amazing.
Well, that's
CABL.
I mean, sure. To me, that's a very knee-jerk response. Like that's because we already had cable. But if you are creating services, you go with the things you have and you sell them directly. I think that's legitimate to say, like, here's all our programming. We want to sell it directly to you now instead of through cable. What's the best way to package it up?
Yeah. Well,
so Disney Plus, ESPN, and Hulu is not cable. It's I want everything from the Disney company, and that's what I'm saying. You could break it up, CNN, HBO, and Max, and it's everything from Warner Brothers Discovery.
Well, and I'm actually part of the reason I was bullish on Max as the name is because Max, HBO Max now, is developing a trustable identity. Like, I feel like I've got a pretty good mental handle on what an HBO Max experience is like. I know that I could go there to see, Adult Swim content or, some of the, Peacemaker and.
It's the Hulu within that service, right? Hulu means the same thing in Disney Plus now, but you can also subscribe to Hulu separately still if you want it.
And I think you can do that. It could be that HBO Max is just there's enough good I don't know. Maybe they're just yielding HBO as a standalone identity entirely. Maybe HBO Max is just going to be the identity because yeah.
It does. The more we talk about it, the more I feel like it is a step backwards of going from like Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN. 3 distinct brands. You can bundle them all together if you want. And Disney Plus is kind of the hub. So it has some selections from the others, like Hulu, for instance, which is a little confusing, but it's there. But Disney Plus is the main brand. Like, Max is a nice main brand to attach HBO and CNN and other things to.
Yeah, well, and plus also Max started off as just another way to not say the word plus, and then but instead, Max, especially with the clever enough for my money, the branding on the shape of the font and the A and all that, it's turned into something. I don't know.
I wonder why they shy away from Warner as a brand. Like maybe it just doesn't test well or something. But
it feels Warner. I can think of nothing current with Warner. I think of
it's
the
a
Warner
classics.
Brothers logo. I think of old things.
You think of Casablanca and the Looney Tunes, right?
Yep, correct. Or 80s era Warner Entertainment.
I think that's one of the things. Peacock bothers me the most of all these names because it's the most alluding retro. To an 80s marketing campaign.
No, 60s.
Well, I guess it started in the 60s, but yeah. Proud as a peacock. Like, do people even know that means NBC? It would be like calling HBO Max the Warner lot. Like, it kind of makes sense. It's like all the programming, but it wouldn't mean anything to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I don't know. I wash my hands of ye. That's you know what? I wash my hands and of the whole naming situation, and I want to wash it with affordably priced water, like around $1 a plastic bottle of it.
What can you get for $1? What are you talking about? Nothing costs $1 these days.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Ozarka. I ain't looking for Evian to wash my hands.
Dasani, maybe.
Yeah. I'll do Dasani, but the point is, I need that $1, Tom.
How do you get $1? How do you get someone to give you $1? Like, people are going to be like, all I got's 20s.
You know what? I'll accept 20s. Just take them on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers. Keep us loud, live, and independent. Get early access to the full experience, exclusive access to the After Talk segment, and most importantly, keep us in business, man.
Yeah. We were not going to be allowed to give you $1, to let you give us $1 per episode. But did you know that changed?
You know what? I feel like I heard a rumor. How did
there
that
was the
go
whole
again?
thing. I'll try to keep it short, but because Apple was treating Patreon as a digital services provider, that meant they had to take 30% and you had to follow Apple's payment guidelines, blah, 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 blah. Patreon was like, we can't do per episode billing anymore. It just doesn't fit with Apple's policies. Then Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers said, Apple, you got to let people link out to their own payment options. Like, it's in my court order. I'm going to hold you in contempt if you don't do that. So Patreon gets to have a link on its app that lets you go out to Patreon and pay for the subscription without giving 30% to Apple. And recently Patreon said, because of that, we've suspended the deadline for ending per episode creation billing.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic news. Oh, that's huge.
So instead of having to force you all to pay $12 or I don't know, $3.50 a month or whatever, we can just stay on $1 per episode as long as we darn well please.
Oh, well, I mean, assuming everybody goes to patreon.com/Cordkillers. If you've been on the fence, if you've been thinking, why should I get in? They're just going to have to shut it all down and go to another service soon. No, we're going to stay right here. Hooray, Patreon.
Yeah, you would have had to pay $3 in the past. So honestly, if you give us $2 per episode, you're saving money.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the search party. Don't question my math.
No, I won't.
Netflix has picked up the digital rights to Sesame Street after Max dropped them. Netflix will get the rights to premiere Sesame Street worldwide. It will continue to air on PBS in the United States if you like watching it on TV. You'll also be able to get them on PBS Kids for streaming if you don't get Netflix. It's not like you're shut out of Sesame Street, but if you have Netflix, you can get all the Sesame Street in there. Sesame Street also plans some format changes for the upcoming season that Netflix will get, including some new animated segments and a new 11-minute long story with more character-driven humor and quote unquote heart. Netflix also gets 90 hours of previous episodes, so certainly not the whole run of old Sesame Streets, but it also gets the right to develop some Sesame Street themed games for the Netflix gaming product.
So I got a silly question for you.
Sure.
Who gets the prestige bump on this one?
The letter B.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
No, but like is Netflix
Yeah, no, that's
getting
an
the
interesting
prestige
question.
bump, or is Sesame Street?
PBS gets the money bump, which I think is all PBS cares about, is we're not having to change how we deliver Sesame Street. Children's Television Workshop, which makes the program for PBS, gets paid by Netflix. That keeps them in business. And so Netflix, I guess, is getting the prestige bump of, I'm a parent, my kids like watching things in Netflix, I want them to watch Sesame Street. Now it's easy because it's right there in the app.
Yeah. Yeah. Financially, we can assume it's pretty much zero sum. A fair exchange of money for services.
Yeah,
but
I assume they're
think
paying more than Max did, because why would Max have dropped it otherwise?
Oh yeah, I guess so. Well, and I guess Max actually, I think I doubt that actually. I think Max would have possibly paid a premium to get the prestige of Sesame Street to come out swinging against Netflix, and then they might have tried to drop their price, and then somebody played hardball, and now they're at Netflix. I can see something like that
it's not
happening.
impossible. I just look at Netflix with its fat stacks of cash and Warner Brothers Discovery with its not fat stacks of cash and figure Netflix must have outbid them, but you could be right.
Yeah.
We got a trailer for Ironheart coming to Disney Plus June 24th. Did you take a look at this?
I did. Boy, oh boy, am I glad that I was playing Marvel Snap for so long, and so all these characters mean
So
something
you know
to
what,
me.
know what these mean?
Yeah, although I did feel a wave of I don't know, disappointment, like just knowing it's a TV show. When you're doing any kind of like big battle armor stuff, I really want that to be a spectacle.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for lack of a better phrase, I fear that this is going to be very Mighty Morphin Power Rangeries, where there's just going to be a lot of human characters talking about the action that's just off screen or about to happen.
I may not be typical in this respect, but I have found that I prefer these Disney Plus shows to extend stories like the Scarlet Witch series, like Loki, versus introduce me to characters. I'm not as motivated to watch Ironheart because I don't know who Ironheart is. And I know, well, if I watch it, I'll get to know. But to me, it's like, I only got so much time in the day. That's a series. That's a long time commitment. I don't know if I want to jump in on that. I'll just get to know Ironheart the next time they show up in a movie. Whereas if it was, it's more of that character I like Loki, then yeah, okay, I'll spend the time with it.
Well, and also the neat thing about extending a existing property is that you can actually add depth to the character by giving another side to them. Or it's like, I never did think about, I suppose Loki does go to the bathroom at some point, and then, whatever, explore that, the softer side of Loki.
We also got a trailer for The Bear season 4, which premieres on June 25th. So a day after Ironheart.
Okay. So I fell off on The Bear late season 2. But from this trailer, Tom, it looks like The Bear is now a codified entity, and now it's The Bear versus defusing a bomb. The Bear versus 24. The Bear, I'm glad that the show is being successful, but it does not look like the transformative type of storytelling.
That's interesting because you haven't seen season 3. I can understand why you would have that reaction. Whereas I, who have seen season 3, looked at this as a natural extension and like, ooh, okay, I am loaded for Bear.
Okay. Yeah. Cause, to my outside eyes, it really did look like a well-oiled team takes on a new challenge.
Yeah. Which makes sense and is not nearly as disappointing as it sounds, given what happens in season 3. Also, Captain America: Brave New World, one of the latest films from Marvel Studios, begins streaming on Disney Plus May 28th. So just a little more than a week from when we're recording. That's just for you to mark on your calendar. If you wanted to see it again, or maybe you never saw it, you can see it on streaming. Star Trek Strange New Worlds third season will debut with its first 2 episodes on July 17th. And then they'll have a new episode every Thursday until the season finale, September 11th. Did you ever end up catching up on Strange New Worlds? I can't remember.
No, that's been on my permission slip of like, fill in shows without having to consult with any other family members. Mm-hmm. However, I am swimming in those, and I got lots of friends who are asking me about other programs. Yeah.
Now, I love it, and you will not regret getting into it, but also knowing some of the other shows that are on that list, this should be in the middle of your list. Probably not all the way.
Yeah, I don't know that I can bump it ahead of the studio or Gemstones or.
Yeah, I'd call it swimming pretty close to Gemstones, but probably not above. Mickey 17 coming to Max on Friday, May 23rd. If you didn't see it in the movie theater or buy it as a rental, you can watch it then. Lots of announcements from the Netflix Upfront presentation to advertisers. Star Search coming back on Netflix with interactive elements. So it will be live as Star Search always was, and you will be able to vote as you always did, but because it's on a computer, you'll be able to interact with it.
So I wonder if they're using the same tech as like or any of the tech from Bandersnatch or any of that stuff
for the live,
or for the interactive part. But no, I guess that's only peripherally related.
It's pretty narrative driven. So
yeah,
I assume this will have to do with like people can. The contestants can chat maybe directly with you. Obviously, the voting will happen through Netflix instead of phone calls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Through maybe your Netflix app or something. I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do because Netflix doing live, big step. Netflix doing live and saying, well, we have an app and a bunch of logged in users. What can we do with that? Could be intriguing. Netflix says season 4 of Bridgerton will arrive in 2026 and that it has already approved seasons 5 and 6. The Four Seasons, which is a television version of the original movie with Alan Alda, has been approved for a second season. Judy Blume's Forever will get a second season on Netflix as well. The Diplomat has been approved for a 4th season, with season 3 still to get its firm premiere date on Netflix, but it will happen this fall. A Clash of Clans animated series has been approved at Netflix, at least Variety reporting that. That actually wasn't at the Upfront. Jamie Foxx will produce and star in Fight for 84, about a coach hired to put together the 1984 U.S. Olympic boxing team after the previous team was killed in a plane crash in 1980. Netflix announced that its Christmas Day NFL games will be the Dallas Cowboys versus the Washington Commanders, followed by the Detroit Lions versus the Minnesota Vikings. Bunch of announcements from Netflix there. Any one of those particularly turn your head?
The 1984 boxing one, how well known of a sports story was that? Unless
I think it's less well known. I think I mean, people know about the Miracle on Ice when they think 80s Olympics, right? The US ice hockey team. I don't think they think about this.
Yeah, and certainly 1980, I guess 80 was when did America ever boycott
the US boycotted the Moscow Olympics in 80.
And then Moscow boycott.
And then Moscow boycotted the the LA Olympics in 1984.
But 82 was a Winter Olympics, which is why the Miracle on
80
Ice.
they were in the same years back then. So 80 was Lake Placid, New York, and everybody went. Nobody boycotted it.
Okay.
I can't remember. 84 was Sarajevo, and I think everybody went to the Winter Olympics that time too. Yeah. Yeah. This is I had not thought about this tragedy till I saw this story. I was like, oh, I sort of dimly remember the boxing team being, killed in that plane crash, but I hadn't thought about it since 1980 probably. So, yeah, I wonder how much that will resonate with people, but if it's a good enough story, kind of doesn't matter. I think probably bring it back into people's awareness.
No, it's definitely a enticing hook.
Yeah. Christopher Nolan's adaptation of the Greek epic, The Odyssey, will be the first feature film ever shot entirely on IMAX film.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
There's never been a feature film shot entirely on IMAX.
Not entirely. They've obviously shot for IMAX, shot some scenes on IMAX film.
Right.
But this will be entirely shot on IMAX.
And by the way, if you can take a few minutes to look at any kind of behind the scenes how the IMAX projection works, that film is absolutely monstrous. Like the platter, in order to play it, they have to have this giant kind of bubble. I mean, it's bigger than this entire cockpit that like our studio.
Chris Nolan won't be losing a reel of that.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
I wonder how he got the rights to the Odyssey. Ha ha ha. This could be amazing, honestly, and would be a great, I think Christopher Nolan obviously doing it for this reason, like go to the theater. You have to go to an IMAX theater.
I'll tell you what, that is a smart way to do it. Avatar is going to be rental proof. This could also be rental proof in a way, in theory. Like, I'm sure that's what they were aiming for with like The Hobbit.
Oh my gosh. Amos just put up a picture of one of the IMAX reels. And there's a man I'm going to guess is like 6'4", standing like a tiny little figurine next to it. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finally, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot at Hulu has cast its new Slayer. Now, Sarah Michelle Gellar will play Buffy in this reboot, but she is an older Buffy. She is mentoring a young Slayer, apparently. And Ryan Kira Armstrong, who was most recently in Disney Plus's Star Wars series Skeleton Crew, has been cast as the new Slayer.
Aha.
That's what I said. I'm like, oh yeah, she totally looks like someone that would have been cast in Buffy the Vampire Slayer back in the day. So,
although
sure.
What'll be interesting is like the original conceit. So if it's a new version of it, I assume that it's being created for the purpose of introducing new people who are unfamiliar with, the Vampire Slayer series.
It sounds like Sarah Michelle Gellar is the entry for the Buffy heads, and the nostalgia, but they want to create a new story for people who aren't familiar.
But of course the whole conceit of the show was take somebody who's a popular, popular socialite,
cheerleader,
status queen who is above gross things like all the nerd and goth stuff, but then finds herself, for call to adventure purposes, having to take on that new role. I wonder if they're going to play the exact same game or what that looks like.
If I were to do it, I'd make her an influencer, like some Instagram star or something like that.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'll be interested to see what they do. All right, let's move on to the buried treasure.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
Buried treasure. Yes, our buried treasure are things we've been watching that we think, I don't know, maybe you'll want to watch it too when you hear us talk about it. And both of us are watching things that the other one previously was excited about and watched. Starting, Brian, with you. What's your buried treasure this week?
I watched the first 2 episodes of Murderbot.
Murderbort.
Yeah, I wrote Murder. I actually mistyped that, and I decided it was funny,
Just
so I left
it.
Yeah. I watched the Murderbot.
Murderbort.
I'll be really curious to know what people who love the book think of the show.
I am, as a person who loves the book, very curious what you think of the show. Which of us should go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
I think eventually I'll like it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But for right now, you can tell its budget is lighter than I expected, and the grit is less than I expected. There's an awful lot I'm being asked to take on faith. For example, boy, do they keep telling me how worried I should be about the fact that it disabled its regulation something or other. Boy, have I not seen the Murderbot do literally anything to indicate that anything has happened. So as a result, I feel a lot of told and not shown. However, I do have hilarious contempt, affable contempt for the soft weakness of the crew. and the melodrama of the whatever the holovids, whatever it is in this world. I'm fascinated by the corporate structure and all that stuff. I mean, I'm in. I'm going to keep on watching, but it does seem a bit more CW than I expected it to be.
Interesting way of putting that. Yeah. I have been very pleased at the casting. I think Skarsgård wouldn't have been my choice, but now that he's playing it, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty close. That sounds like Murderbot, even if he doesn't look like what I would have thought Murderbot looked like. Some of the members of the team, Garathan, Mensa, they are like spot on. I'm like, yep, that's exactly what I pictured. They look, they act, well done on the casting there. Overall, though, it's interesting that you caught on to the lack of grit. It seems way lighter than I would have portrayed it, because some of the lightness of it is in contrast to the situations, and you're not feeling the heaviness of those situations. Maybe that is yet to come.
It is. I expected the lightness of the TV in universe, the interdimensional cable.
Oh yeah, no, that should be a bigger contrast than it is.
Right.
Yeah,
not a lot of contrast.
No.
Kind of both look the same.
And it's kind of a throwaway line that he doesn't want to give up his corporate job because he has access to the feeds for free. But that's kind of a big, ridiculous motivation for him to not let on that he has changed his governor module. And it's hilarious and ridiculous in the sense that the corporation would also liquefy him, as he talks about multiple times. The other thing that I wondered how they would deal with is, in the books, a lot of what happens is in Murderbot's head. It is told through a first person Murderbot telling you the story. And I'm like, how are they going to do that without doing a bunch of voiceovers? And the answer is they didn't. They just did a bunch of voiceovers.
They did do a scene or two of him fantasizing about murdering people.
Yeah.
A little bit of blurry vision on the side for you to go like, yeah, it's in his head.
Wait a
see?
minute. This is, yeah. But yeah, I think I'm not saying it's an easy task, but they would have been better served to show us more of these things, like you say. That's it. Overall, I'm enjoying it. And I think it's fun. And Eileen, who's never read any of the stories, seems to be enjoying it as well. So
yeah, no, I'm fully bought in, and I'll keep on watching it. I did catch something else just as a little tip of the hat. I wanted to see if Home Movies, the show that I first saw on Adult Swim 20 years ago, I wanted to see if it held up. And boy, oh boy, is it a precursor to Bob's Burgers. Like Josie, who only knows Bob's Burgers, gave it a watch and was just like, wow, is this odd to just see proto Bob's Burgers. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's great. I've been watching The Studio. I've made a couple of allusions to that already in the show. It is genius. It is an anthology show where Seth Rogen plays a studio head. But if you're like, wait, he doesn't seem like a studio head type. Yes, exactly. That's part of the fun. It is awkward. It is cringe humor. You will be uncomfortable at the situations. You will, in my experience, know what's about to happen, and yet you will not be disappointed when it happens, and you will want to look away, but you won't. So good. And I'm told it only gets better from here because I'm only 5 episodes in, with the finale happening today.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think I've only got the last 2. It's great. It just gets better and better as the season rolls on. You can really see, very clearly they knew what they wanted to do from the beginning. So I don't know if it's them finding their footing or me, but I know I definitely am digging it more and more as it goes on.
And as someone who lives in Los Angeles, I look at a lot of the Los Angeles of it and go, yep. As someone who has worked for Fandango and Rotten Tomatoes and been around studios a lot in her job at YouTube, a couple of times I caught Eileen going, yep, a couple of things. So it as ridiculous and, as exaggerated as it is, clearly it is rooted in the reality, even if it's a bit of a cartoon version of the reality. And man, the cameos are strong in that one. If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Are we sold out on the workshop?
No, I believe we have 7 slots left.
Okay, that's not many.
And even then, I mean, it's at that point it just becomes a logistics thing.
Yeah,
But
okay.
basically,
We'll just be weighing people like.
I mean, luckily, to be honest, just over a certain amount, it becomes less hands-on. It becomes more of a show, which maybe is a good thing.
Sure.
If you head on over to bestnewsever.com, guess what you're going to find? You're going to find your opportunity to hang out with me and Tom and Matt Donnelly and Andrew Heaton and Justin Robert Young. And what are we going to be doing for 2.5 days? Working on whatever project you're trying to make bigger. Because look, you got a thing you want to do, you got to get attention from other people, and you got to know what to do with that attention. That's literally what the whole thing's about. If you want to live the exact experience that Tom and I have gone through with this very program, we want to make that happen for you. So if you head on over to bestnewsever.com, the June 27th, 28th, 29th, we're doing a do your weird thing workshop for 2.5 days. You got to come out. We're going to go to the Crowded Barrel Distillery. We're going to get up and learn all the fundamentals of everything we've done. And then we're going to apply it to your project. And also I'll teach you to eat fire.
Yeah. Just as a bonus, right? On top of it. So I know a couple of people who've signed up who've said, I've seen you, I've met you, we've hung out, but I've always wanted to just be able to sit down and talk shop, and pick your brain. And the fact that I get to pick Brian's brain and Justin and Heaton and Matt Donnelly all at the same time is just perfect. So if you're like, I've always wondered, like, Tom, how do you do that? Brian, how do you make that happen? How do you deal with that? That's what we're going to be doing. So go check it out.
Yeah, and by the way, nobody's saying you got to quit your day job and run off and start a media empire, but because fundamental truths are true at all levels. Gravity still pulls things down, whether it's a big thing or a small thing. So whatever your thing is, if you want to learn it, if you want to work on it, learn more about it and make it better, and you would like to have it be an excuse to spend 2.5 days with us, that's what we're doing. It's going to be really a blast. Instead of coming to a show and just being talked at, you're going to be standing shoulder to shoulder talking with us.
Yeah. I know most of you are like, I wish I could do that. But I know there's at least one of you listening right now is like, I got to remember to do this. I got to remember to look at this. I think I could afford this. Bestnewsever.com, or just go search it on the Modern
Scam
Rogue.
Stuff.
Scamstuff.com.
You can just go to Scam Stuff and type in the word weird. You'll find.
But I'm giving you this moment to remember to do that. Like, make that mental note in your head. You're out walking the dog, you're driving the car or whatever. Just be like, all right. No, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go look at it. And if you're sitting at your laptop, just do it right now. Go check it out.
And by the way, right now is the right time. We just, Annalisa just sent out the email letting people know. Some people are asking, like, which hotel do you recommend? And, there's the affordable one. And then there's, if you want to splurge on yourself, then and we're figuring out food choices, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Scan the Horizon.
Send a scanning to abort.
Scanning the horizon!
A bunch of stats coming out this week. Advertising supported tiers made up 46% of streaming subscriptions at streaming video on demand platforms that offer both options with and without ads at the end of March. That's up by 33%, about 7% per year. Over the past 9 quarters, ad plans drove 71% of net subscriber additions for premium streaming video on demand. That's according to the latest State of Subscriptions report from market research firm Antenna.
Tom,
I think this might surprise people, but as much and as loud as people are who hate ads, there are more of them who are willing to put up with them and pay.
I was going to ask, I wonder if either of us are doing a disservice to our audience by not, I don't know, soaking in the ad-laden experience. I know I'm quick to make the ads go away, but not everyone is that way.
Yeah, and I think even the streaming providers have been surprised by this because I think they live in the world where everyone tells them, well, nobody likes ads, and if they can at all afford it, they'll pay to get rid of them. And it turns out that's not true. A lot of people can't afford the higher priced, and so they'll pay for the version with ads to save money. But a lot of people are just like, yeah, I don't watch it that much, and the ads, I kind of don't remember that they play. Like they sort of annoy me for a second, and then I forget about it. And they are the silent majority given this numbers.
I'll tell you what, it's that little bit of friction. It's the difference of opt-in versus opt-out. So it's like the experience of getting ad-free is an opt-in experience, which is a heavy amount of decision-making, mental calories expenditure, whereas the decision to let ads happen to you is an opt-out thing, where it's like to get out of that experience, you have to do something, and you're like, I don't know, this will be over within 15 seconds.
Especially in the United States, where we are so used to ads in television. Like we haven't lived in a world where you could be ad-free on TV all the time for very long. Most people haven't lived in it at all. So having some ads in your streaming probably feels like an escape from ads for a lot of people. Are like, well, this is way less than on cable, so cool.
Yeah.
Streaming overall increased 15% from April 2024, and half a percentage point from the month before in March, accounting for 44.3% of tune-in, according to Nielsen's The Gauge. I don't think this is surprising, especially to anybody listening to this show, but it is clear that streaming is the future. Broadcast and cable fell 7% and 16% respectively over that same year-to-year span, though each of them managed to inch up a little from March to April. So a minor rally attributed to White Lotus and Grey's Anatomy. They were saying they were watched even more. Their gains were even more on streaming for those two shows, but those two shows pulled up linear and broadcast a little bit as well.
Do you think we're ever going to see, even as I say this, I want to lock in my prediction, how long until somebody somewhere proposes legislation to make sure that poor cable companies are able to keep providing those cable services because somebody somewhere needs it?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think it's going to be because cable services became the home of your local city council streaming, and we're mandated for that kind of stuff.
That's what they'll do.
Yeah.
It'll be cable access. So yet another, forgive me, yet another government handout charity case.
I mean, we'll see, but that would be the argument. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Charter Communications has agreed to acquire Cox Communications, which combines two of the top three cable companies in the U.S., Comcast being the other of the three. Cox operates the largest private broadband company in the U.S., and here's the key. Cox Communications offers commercial fiber, as well as managed IT and cloud services. So yes, there is the typical cable internet and cable television, but they also have fiber. And when this closes, Charter will have fiber. And I think we are headed to a world where the big cable companies are also ISPs in the truest sense, offering like fiber and nationwide access, not just regional access and over coax. It continues to offering services under the Spectrum brand. So if you're a Cox Communications cable TV subscriber now, eventually after this closes, maybe next year, you'll start seeing your service be called Spectrum.
Yeah, it's interesting because I want to roll my eyes and say, oh, just what we need, more consolidation in the cable market or whatever. But given the fact that, at work, I don't have any choice for internet. It's only one company. And weirdly, I wonder if this kind of consolidation could at least bring a Pepsi into the conversation.
Yeah. It seems like we are headed to a world where Verizon just bought Frontier and is starting to roll out fiber more. AT&T is starting to roll out fiber more. We're out of that drought where they didn't feel like it was worth their money to do it. The cable companies are consolidating and include fiber. Comcast is looking at fiber. So I feel like we are headed to a world where the regional cable monopolies are essentially going to be meaningless. And I wouldn't be shocked if you start to see Spectrum offer streaming TV packages nationwide. Whether you're in the Spectrum area or not. We'll see about that. That's a little farther out there. Netflix announced that its ad-supported plan, the $8 a month plan, has crossed more than 94 million monthly active users. That's up from 70 million in November. Its ad-supported plan reaches more 18 to 34-year-olds than any other U.S. broadcast or cable network. Should have put this one up with the other story, I guess. But
well, it also the 18 to 34 is, I think, an important clue. I'd be curious how many of those 18 to 34-year-olds are actually paying for it themselves. This seems like a parental, like, okay, technically I'll let you have it, but what's the cheapest version?
Sure. I know my parents wouldn't have, but maybe theirs do. I think it's indicative that Netflix is broadcast television now. It is the equivalent of broadcast television. What we thought of as ABC, CBS, NBC back in the day is mostly Netflix. The other thing that is also broadcast television is YouTube. Speaking of cable access, it's also that too. And YouTube is adding the ability for YouTube channels to organize content more like a episodic television show. So creators like Michelle Kerr's Challenge Accepted, Good Mythical Morning with Rhett and Link are the first to use the new tool to turn content into seasons and episodes, making their content more bingeable.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what structural tools permeate. This seems like a right call,
especially with them trying to be the podcast home. YouTube is like trying to eat podcasting, and seasons and episodes are a big part of a lot of podcasts, right? World's Greatest Con, for example.
Yeah.
There's also a new interactive ad unit on YouTube. Advertisers can display products on the right side of the TV screen during the ads, and the interactive feed acts as a storefront where you can browse through multiple products using your remote. If you select an item, you are then prompted to scan a QR code with your smartphone to get a link for the purchase, which seems like a lot of friction.
Yeah, yes. And it will be at first. However, it is fascinating. Like, we're a little bit spoiled on Cordkillers, Tom, in that we are supported by fine people who, at a critical moment when we went independent, pledged their dollars. But we are the outlier. In general, what you find is people who have deep fandoms, and they are willing to do an insane number of backflips in order for somebody to get ad dollars. Like they'll take so many steps to make sure somebody gets credit for a thing, so that they can be supported with other people's money. Like, I don't know. It's fascinating the way people oftentimes discount the value of their own time.
We, however, value your time very much, which is why we always finish up with the chatter.
You've got mail.
Cappy's got an idea, Brian.
Yes.
He said, this crossed my mind while we were talking about Netflix not changing its payment policy with the new Apple deal. I first thought about this while listening to DTNS. So, Tom, you could bring it up there too, if you like. Why wouldn't Netflix change its payment policy? Why are they being, quote unquote, friendly with Apple? Perhaps the long-running theory that one day Apple might buy Netflix is coming to fruition. I know it's been less likely in the last few years with Apple TV's success, but I still ask myself, why wouldn't Netflix want more money? Anyway, just food for thought. Love the show, Cappy.
I do love me a corporate-based conspiracy theory, but boy, oh boy, is Apple TV Plus doing pretty well. And it's if Apple TV Plus had failed, I can't imagine why Netflix would want to sell itself.
That's where I've always heard these arguments coming from people saying Apple's got a lot of money. Apple needs the content. And yes, Apple TV Plus has done well on the quality side, but it's not bringing in the numbers. They would definitely benefit from a Netflix subscriber number infusion, the biggest subscriber base in the world for streaming. So sure, it would make sense for Apple to buy Netflix in a lot of ways. But no one ever looks at Netflix and goes, but does it make sense to Netflix? Because Netflix is over there going, no, we're not for sale. We're growing. We're the biggest streaming service in the world. We're building a gaming service. We are going to be buying people, not the other way around. And I think that's probably still true.
Yeah.
We also got this from Derek. And Derek, I apologize. I edited down your thoughts, although we valued all of them. Hey, Tom and Brian, wanted to share my thoughts on the discussion over cable and streaming spurred from this week's news story about ESPN. Surprisingly, I've still been on cable, with the main reason being the MSG channel for the New York Rangers hockey games, followed by SNY for the Mets baseball games. My cable provider often reminds me of all the streaming services that are included with my cable package, including Disney Plus Basic, Paramount Plus Essential, ViX Premium, Max Basic with ads, AMC Plus with ads, and Peacock Premium with ads. All in all, if I had tried buying independently all of the streaming services for programming I actually watch, I'd still end up spending far more than I currently do with my cable subscription. Plus, the ease of using my cable subscription to log into everything actually keeps things pretty simple. The sports side of things definitely skews my situation. But strangely, despite years of advocating cord cutting and cord killing with you all, I have to say, cable might not be that bad of a deal.
Again, this is where I always have to retreat because of the two of us, I've been the angrier, louder anti-cable person. But I like to remind people it was the being trapped in cable onerous agreements that drove me nuts, not the idea of an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Yeah. And I do think if you are going to pay for your internet service from cable anyway, which a lot of people don't, and I think sometimes it's well worth it to buy a fiber connection from somebody else than pay for TV, maybe it makes sense. I think the cable companies are getting smarter and smarter in including these streaming services to keep the friction down. Like, why would you leave to watch Peacock when we give you Peacock? I think that's been pretty smart. And I keep adjusting where I think this is going, but it feels to me right now that the cable companies in the United States are going to become ISPs who bundle in streaming services for you. One of those streaming services will probably be cable TV for a long time, but you won't need a cable box to get it. And most of your value will come from these other services that they bundle in.
Yeah.
Well, folks, that is it for us. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we are live on twitch.tv/nightattack Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. Yes, I said Tuesdays. That's the new name. New day, I reckon.
No, it's the new name.
The new name is Tuesday Killers. See you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.